Karen Finney. She's a former senior spokesperson and advisor for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
So, Karen, what is this day like for you? And in the past few weeks, in your private moments, have you been holding out some sliver of hope that the electors would turn this around?
You know, I'll be honest with you, Allison. I take the view more to where I think, John Podesta was in the clip that you showed, which is, and I think where the president is, which is, there are very serious questions about the role that the Russian government, Russian state actors, including Vladimir Putin himself, may have played. And so regardless of changing the outcome of the election, which I don't think to my mind, that's not what this is about. This is about making sure that we know what happened so that we can make sure it does not happen again. I think that's what's more important here. And to this point about some of the electors, I know some of them are suggesting that really the thing to do is to send it to Congress because, the Republican-led Congress, members of Congress could actually have access to some of that confidential material. And then they too would have information that I think the electors feel, at least certainly the ones who've asked for a briefing on what may have happened here, to really understand, what actually happened. And, what do we need to do to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Look, you've heard the Trump team. They say that you guys are just grasping at straws. This is all a distraction. This is a red herring, pardon the pun, to say that Russia in any way played a role in the outcome. Let me play for you. Basically, Kellyanne Conway is saying that your team, is just politicizing this. So let me play for you what she said about you guys.
It does seem to be a political response at this point because it seems like the president is under pressure from Team Hillary, who can't accept the election results. It's very clear that President Obama could have, quote, retaliated months ago if they were actually concerned about this and concerned about this, quote, affecting the election. Whatever his motives are, whatever his action is, we'll respect it as Americans.
What's your response, Karen?
Well, my response is that Kellyanne Conway is a very talented political operative, and I understand why she and the other members of the Trump team are trying to make this about, us sour grapes and not wanting to accept the election results. And again, that's not what we're saying here. And, I find it frustrating. Kellyanne Conway also admitted she herself is not privy to any of the information, the classified information and the intelligence that, when other members of Congress have seen it, it has been very convincing to them. And in fact, Donald Trump, if he would decide to show up once in a while for those briefings, those national security briefings, he too might be more convinced that there's something really, there's some there that is worthy of investigating. So I understand why they want to cast it that way. And particularly, it doesn't look good for them, all of these various interconnections, potential business connections with the in Russia, with the Trump company. So I understand why they want to deflect from that, but I think there's a point at which we all as Americans say, if the Russians are trying to, in any way, shape, or form impact our elections, we got to stop it.
But beyond that, Karen, do you think, as you sit there today, that Russian hacking cost Hillary Clinton the election?
I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think we will ever know the answer to that. I think the more important question is, did we, and this is not a country that is, our friends at this point, did they did they hack, and did they use information in a way to put the thumb on the scale of the election, to do something nefarious with regard to the outcome of the election? I just think as an American, I just want to know the answer to that question because I think it's so important.
Yeah, and now that the smoke has cleared somewhat, and it's been several weeks since the election, actually longer, what do you think went wrong with your campaign?
I think if there are any number of things you can point to be perfectly frank with you. Everybody's got a theory about we should have gone to this state or that state and we could have spent more money here or there. And, as Mandy Grunwald made a great point a few weeks ago, you know what? You're right. Any of those points, I think you could say, have merit to them. I think what's important now, to be honest with you, and this was part of the conversation that I think that's been so important going forward, is let's understand what happened with regard to, you know, the Russians hacking, because it has real significant consequences going forward. We're not trying to re-adjudicate, you know, what happened in the election, but when we talk about things like fake news that got so bad to the point that a gunman went into a family-friendly pizza place, right? I mean, we know there were certain things and certain characteristics of the nature of this election that have real implications going forward, that personally, I'd like to make sure that we do the things we need to do to rein those things in and make sure that we understand what some of those currents were, particularly, for example, Allison, you know, some of the currents in terms when it comes to race and gender and, you know, some of what we considered some of the race baiting, frankly, that I think we saw from the Trump campaign. I think that still has real implications for our country and bringing our country back together and moving us forward.
Karen, you know, look, the Trump team says that every time that you do that and you look outward to was there possible Russian hacking, was there some level of racism, that it's not the soul searching that is required for how Democrats are going to move forward.
But you know what? I think there's two pieces to that, Allison, because number one is there's the soul searching and there's the what do we need to do as a party moving forward. But I personally am more interested in what do we need to do as a country moving forward. And I think that one of the big things that are so important, I mean, think about where we were 8 years ago when we elected Barack Obama, where we were as a country, how we felt about that accomplishment. And so my point is that was a huge moment in the history of our country. So elections also are big moments for us to take a look at ourselves and look at our country and say, who are we? Is this the direction that we want to be going in? Yes, we can do all of the, you know, punditry and looking at, as I say, the various things that we could or could not have done differently in the election. I think that's a slightly different conversation.
Karen Finney, thanks so much for your perspective. Nice to have you.